Hey everybody, Suksidu here, and today I am joined by Mike Harrison from Biceps and Banter. Thanks for joining me, Mike.
It's an absolute pleasure, Suk. First one. So, honoured, flattered, really. But it was an obvious choice.
I was saying to Mike before we went live, this is the pilot episode, the cheap one, where we get in the affordable guest to test the concept and then decide whether we'll move forward.
You stitched me up there. You stitched me up. So, he's been begging me to come on. Mike, I won't start a podcast unless you come on. Go on then. I'll come on. I'll do you a favour for an old mate.
Thanks, mate. That's what friends are for.
That's it, And I'm not even charging him that much. I'll send you the invoice after this, yeah?
Yeah, that's fine. Couple of quid, couple of dirhams. So we'll cover Mike's journey and career and talk about the business he's built, Biceps and Banter, which is amazing. Business that he runs with his co-founder Dan in detail over the next 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Again, it's the first episode. I have no idea how long this will be. But for those watching who don't know who you are, Mike, who are you, very briefly, and what is Biceps and Banter?
So I'm Mike. I'm basically just a coach. And I work with, like you said, my business partner, Dan. Biceps and Banter have been going for 4.5 years or something like that, but been a coach for pretty much double that time. So about 8 years, I think I've been a coach, 9 years. We've got a team of coaches. We've got 4 coaches currently. We have a couple of little branches to the business, predominantly obviously fat loss, nutrition training type coaching. But in the last kind of year or so, myself and Dan have gone down the route of coaching coaches a little bit more. We still coach fat loss and nutrition and training, but we've kind of got slightly mixed interests. So, yeah, that's kind of me, I guess, in the business space in a nutshell. Not much to say, really. No big ego, no flex. Just a coach.
I'll give you a chance to flex, mate.
Okay, thank you. Great. Good, because I've got a collection of watches there waiting.
Okay. How come you've not put your sword on the wall?
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah. It's for the mantelpiece, mate. Fucking hell.
Do you know what it is? You've not hit that revenue milestone yet, have you?
Well, that's it. We can only dream. Dream. We'll get onto that in a bit. I've seen the questions, so...
Yeah, so we're going to cover quite a lot of what Mike's just mentioned, hiring a team, the structure of the business a little bit as well, and running the business with a business partner, which is something that probably not many coaches do that would benefit them. So we'll talk about the pros and cons of that as well. So where did it all start? From my understanding and my memory, you were in either the Army or the RAF to begin with. Which one was it?
It's in the RAF.
RAF. What's that like? Not quite the Army, or
not quite the Army. It's for people who have got brains who want to, defend the country. So no need to thank me for my service, Suck. It's okay. It's all part of the job. I joined the Air Force at 18. I didn't particularly want to. But just kind of bad career advice leaving school, really.
What else was there? What were the other options when leaving school?
So I did okay at school, surprisingly enough, and got good grades and so on and so forth. But I was always like a sporty kid. Played football, rugby, that ran cross country, basketball, cricket. Just pretty much played everything and enjoyed it and wanted to go into something related to sport. And obviously, like when you're 14, 15, 16, you don't really know what's out there. So the thing that I could think of was either a sports scientist or a physiotherapist. And that's pretty much what I could muster up. And got my grades, and we were with the careers advisor, and she basically moved me away from wanting to do anything sports related and moved me to do A levels in line to go to uni to do medicine. So I did maths, chemistry, physics, and biology A level. got accepted to do dentistry at uni. Did all my work experience to be a dentist. And as I was going through sixth form, I was just like, I don't want to be a dentist. Like, I want to do something in sport. So I made a bit of a decision where I was like, right, I'm not going to go to uni. What I'm going to do is I'm going to join the Air Force, but I'm going to go in as a PTI, a personal training instructor, do my degree through the Air Force, and then that way I can stay within sport. So okay, so same thing, and again, kind of like a similar thing happened. I went for the Air Force, did all the interviews, did an aptitude test, and then again they kind of sold me in a different direction. And were like, okay, your aptitude test has come back this, you've passed for all of these things. You're selling yourself a little bit short going as a personal training instructor, going as an aircraft engineer. And like at the time that I was going through it, I would have been about 17. And again, not really knowing what I wanted to do. They sold it, and it was like, there's you get to do this, you get to see the world, you have all this camaraderie with people, it's amazing, it'll set you up for life. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? Sounds great. So I ended up doing aircraft engineering, like never had any interest in aircraft, never even watched Top Gun, believe it or not.
What? You watch it now?
Still haven't. I've not watched it.
Oh my God. You need to watch both of them.
They couldn't believe it. So like, obviously, when you're in like an institution like that, you've got people who are being almost like bred into it, that their dad was in it, their granddad was in it. And it's like, it's a bit of a dinosaur institution, really. And people absolutely loved it. So even the notion of me never watching Top Gun, people just couldn't fathom it. People couldn't fathom that I weren't interested in aircraft. You would be working alongside people, right? And they would know every single aircraft. They would know the tail numbers. And I just weren't interested in it. And because I weren't interested in it, I was not very good at it. I was average, probably. Wasn't the worst, but wasn't the best. Never going to be the best, really. And I think the way that I am, some of the traits that I have, I don't particularly do very well if I'm not doing the best that I can do, if that makes sense. So I just kind of shut off. I was not in a particularly good place, I think. And don't get me wrong, the first 4 years were great, because when you're 18 to 22, you were basically living like a university lifestyle whilst you were training to be an engineer, but you were getting paid to do it, unlike uni. So I had a little bit more money than my friends and could go out a lot. And those years were great. But as you kind of grow up a little bit, got to 23, I think I got into a relationship and got moved to a place that I didn't particularly get on with the people, because I went into like a mix of military and civilian, and the civilian people were all kind of like 50 plus, but they were all ex-military people, all older guys. The bands had gone, the socials had gone. So I didn't like it. And my dad was struggling at the time with some mental health things, and something happened basically where it just kind of gave me a kick, and I was like, I don't want to end up like my dad, and I just said, I cannot face doing what I'm doing now for the next however many years. So I was like, I'm literally going to go and do something in sport. So we're probably talking 7 years, 8 years after I wanted to do it at sixth form. And I finally was like, right, I'm going to do something. Started a sports science degree, got qualified as a personal trainer, did a nutrition qualification, and basically then just started to learn a bit about business. I had some business coaching, learn about marketing. I used to listen to some Paul Moore stuff on email marketing. And I was just like, right, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to jump in and go head first. And notice got handed in, and just went for it. So yeah, I've rambled quite a bit there, but that's it. And now I'm here talking to Suk, pretty much.
Amazing. So you kind of covered probably the next question as well, and the next two questions. But what was the first 6 months as a PT or online coach? Because I know your route or your kind of first steps were very different to what most people think they need to do.
Yeah, so I was pretty convinced that I didn't want to work in person with people. I was pretty set of it because um, I don't know. I just didn't like. I wasn't very good at taking instruction or taking orders or listening to people that I didn't think were like particularly cleverer than me. I had this like,
So good for the RAF. Good for the RAF then.
yeah, do you know what? Not good at all. Because I would just be like, why? I'm literally only listening to you because you're older than me. Like, how can that be? How, like, you joined up a year before me. Like that. So I didn't particularly like it. I was like, I'm going to be my own boss. I don't want to. I don't want to be set by time, time in the gym for somebody, so on and so forth. At the time, um, the relationship that I was in, my partner was actually in a wheelchair. So there was kind of those considerations to make that I didn't want to be out of the house all hours. I had kind of other, I guess, responsibilities to think about besides myself. So yeah, the first 6 months were about learning. I used to get up early. I used to get up at 5. I think I used to start work at around 8. And I would do some work before I drove to the RAF. I would then listen to a podcast on the way. I would always have my earphones in whilst I was working because we were allowed to do that, and I would listen to podcasts. And I'm probably not joking. Out of the eight working hours, 9 working hours, I'd probably be listening to podcasts for 6 of it, and that would be, I'd probably say 4 out of 5 days a week. I'd probably do that. So I would just listen. I'd work at weekends. And I just grafted. People didn't want me to do it. Mum and dad didn't want me to do it. My boss told me I'd never make anything of it. Bearing in mind, my boss was literally 20 stone. Starting with exaggeration, he was 20 stone. And he was it was just met with some friction, which kind of got my back up a little bit. And then, yeah, went well. Like, it kind of went well. I offered up my services, worked with 5 people, 5 friends for free, basically. 3 of them ended up doing a photo shoot. 1 of them ended up doing a show and coming second. So they were quite, good experiences within kind of transitioning to coaching. And then obviously, because I gathered a little bit of social proof off the back, I kind of offered my paid services out, and I think it took me about a month and a half to get somewhere in the region of 30. I don't think it was quite 30, but I think somewhere in the region of around 30 clients online.
Wow, that's mega. So you've gone straight online. So what do you think of the, a common opinion that some people have, some quite well-respected people in the industry have, that you have to work on the gym floor, before going online, or in order to be a good online coach?
I don't think you have to, but I do actually think it's wise. I think online coaching, the barrier to entry is incredibly low. So again, obviously, I've been doing this for some time, and whilst I appreciate that my transition in wasn't the stereotypical transition into coaching, I do appreciate that. I think it would have set me in better stead potentially, but at this moment, at that point in time where I moved into the industry at 27, so quite late, I'd been around the gym for 10 years. I'd been coaching people. I used to coach the football team. I'd do the nutrition for the football team in the RAF. It was basically my passion. All my reading, all my listening was around it. And again, I weren't always right, and you learn more, obviously. And I would say that obviously the state of the level 2, level 3 qualifications is not necessarily that good anyway. So it's, what I felt like when I went and actually did my qualifications, I was like, okay, well, this is quite poor. This is nothing that I didn't already know. Am I, I guess I was kind of naive because I kind of thought, am I actually going to learn anything by just going in and coaching people, which is pretty much what I've just done for the last 4 or 5 years with friends, other people that I used to work with, I used to go and help train. Looking back, I probably would say, yeah, I would have learned some stuff. but at the time I didn't think I needed to. But yeah, I guess in short, as a short answer, I don't think you need to work in person, but I probably would recommend it.
Cool. Okay, so you've started working with clients online. It's gone really well. 30-ish clients in the first month or so. From that, take us from there. Like what came next?
So I don't want to say I got spotted, because I don't think that's right. But I was working with Stephen Box when he was at Body Type Nutrition, and he was my coach, and they kind of he probably highlighted to Ben that I might be a useful asset to the team to bring on, and at that moment in time, and I'm not going to say I don't respect Ben now. Ben Coomber, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm referring to. I'm not going to say I don't respect him now, but at that time, I probably listened to near enough every podcast that he'd done. He was probably an influencing factor into why I wanted to do what I wanted to do at that time. So I was like really, I was thrilled really with it, and I was like, wow, like this company that I really respect. I'm literally coached by one of their coaches, offered me a job, but we couldn't agree finances. There's just a few financial things that I weren't happy with, basically, because I would have been going in with the most amount of clients out of all coaches. And the way that the percentage split was done, like it wouldn't have made much sense for me to have gone in. But because I'd been around the team, I'd met Dan, I'd met a few of the others. So Dan, my business partner, was in the same company. We kind of sat down and we were chatting, and I kind of convinced the guys to leave. Steve was a little bit unhappy because Ben had come back with a couple of counter offers financially, which kind of put Steve's nose out of joint because Steve was the head coach at the time. And yeah, I kind of convinced him to leave. So Steve left, Dan left, and Chris, a guy called Chris, left. And we just set up something called Team Box. We used Steve's name because he was kind of like the most senior member, I guess. He had the most followers. He was the most well known. He had the most connections. And there was four of us. We kind of saw it like a box. The logo was a square because there was four sides of it, and it kind of fit. So we moved into that. We got a couple of other team members. Laura, who's still a friend now, joined, and another guy joined. But it became clear that it was quite fractious after about 2 years. We were not aligned in what we thought coaching needed to be, what marketing needed to be. And there was just a split really from the get-go. And during that period of time, me and Dan had gotten closer. We shared similar sense of humour. When I used to travel down to Bath, because I lived up north at the time, and I used to travel down to Bath to do some work with the rest of them because they all lived in Bath. And I used to stay at his, so we grew closer, and we started to put out some videos on Facebook, and they started to go quite well for us. And it was pretty much the stuff that we became. I don't want to say known for. The three people that know us, it was in the typical style, like a bit jovial, a bit sweary, a bit ranty, fitness related stuff on Facebook. And I remember Phil Lerney started to share it, and I was like, fucking hell, Phil Lerney. I was like, fucking hell. I'd been to a couple of his seminars, really respected him. Again, I was like, at this moment in time, I was probably only a year and a half in to being a coach, I guess. And I was like, fucking go on. Phil started to message us. We were at Body Power. He came over to us, was chatting to us, invited us to his house. I was like, fucking hell, I can't believe what's happening here. And me and Dan, basically off the back of these videos that were going quite well, started up a YouTube channel called Biceps and Banter. We had to call it something different because a couple of the guys who we were working with didn't want it to be under the brand of Team Box because of the content, the nature of the content being a little bit sweary, a little bit out there. So we named it Biceps and Banter. It was kind of like the first name that we landed upon in terms of what kind of did what it said on the tin. And they started to go quite well. And it just became a bit of not a bone of contention, but I think a couple of the members were a little bit jealous about what we were doing. And there was a little bit of underhand stuff, a little bit of backstabbing that was going on. It was becoming quite toxic. So me and Dan just decided to leave. There was a conversation around whether we should change the name from Biceps and Banter with it being a YouTube channel. And we're like, coaching, it's a little bit fucking cringy. Like, let's be honest. I still fucking cringe when I've got to give my email address out. It's better than my other one, Sexy Boy 60.
Sexy Boy 69.
Yeah, we were like, look, do you know what? We're kind of known for this name. Again, it's memorable. It's does what it says on the tin. So we kept the name, and we just set up on our own. And then it just went from strength to strength, really.
Amazing. So that we'll talk about business partnerships shortly, because obviously that's the bad experience, if you like. Well,
yeah,
it ended up bad, and now you're kind of in a positive one with Dan. Cool. So you started Biceps and Banter, and in terms of what that looks like today, or in fact, before we talk about what it looks like today, what was that like? What was it delivering? What was the service? What was the offer? How did it run?
Yeah, so it was just me and Dan in the beginning. Basically, just had our own separate clients. So it wasn't necessarily a business. It was essentially two people as sole traders working jobs, but filming videos together, essentially doing the marketing together. And because of shared values, shared opinions in the industry, shared sense of humour, it became quite easy to create content. I think that's one of the biggest struggles for coaches is knowing what content to make. And then when you've got a partner to help you do it with, not only do you get twice the amount of ideas, but it takes the pressure off you as well to always be the one talking. You can gather your thoughts and respond to something he says and vice versa. And then you have a natural rapport. And I think, again, this is why podcasts do quite well, I think, is that people like to listen into conversations. And that's kind of what we found. So for the first, I don't know how long it was before we brought on another coach, probably a year. I'm going to throw a year out there. For the first year, it was Dan coaching his clients, me coaching my clients, and doing our videos together. So we would put out a YouTube video once to twice, maybe a week at times. We would put out Instagram videos together. And that's, I guess, the extent of it. We got all our branding done, our logos, which we'd not had done before. We got the colouring done. We wanted to make it quite distinctive and recognisable in terms of like the colourways. We made kind of cartoons. We had cartoons made up before everybody started using cartoons or fucking Bitmojis or whatever. We had like cartoons made up because it was kind of in line with the jovial aspect of the content we were putting out. So for about the first year, that's what it was. And I think around that time we started to then work with you as a mentor, and then it all went tits up, to be honest.
It's when it turned into a business. So just rolling it back a little bit, basically, for all intents and purposes, it was just from the front end, from a public facing perspective, it was a business partnership or two co-founders of the same business. But the reality from a legal perspective, it was two separate businesses collaborating on content and using the same branding effectively.
Absolutely that, yeah.
Okay, cool. So it did change when we started working together. I'm not saying that's because of me, but probably because of what the products were launched. So today, my understanding is that you guys still you have your own clients, and that's like from a revenue perspective or operational perspective, you have your clients, Dan has his clients, but then there's this business perspective that's shared, which is Blitz, which is your group program, and then revenue from your other coaches. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you were being modest there. It was down to you that we started to make some changes. We had Blitz, like you say, which is for those that don't know, which is probably near enough everybody, it's like a group coaching program that me and Dan kind of created it. We filmed all the videos, but we sat on it. We sat on it for a little while, and it took kind of Suck to convince us that it was the right thing to do. You taught us how to launch it, how to set up a waiting list or a priority list, go through an email launch sequence. The exact same sequence we still use literally to this day. I think we've been using it 2.5 years. I think Blitz has been going maybe nearly 3 years, something like that, 2.5, 3 years. And because we launched that gave us greater amounts of lead generation, which then needed us to bring another coach to be able to satisfy, because me and Dan were already full. So then that's where the inception of a business starts to occur. So obviously all of the joint stuff, i.e. the Blitz, and then any coaching revenue that came on from I guess coaches who were part of the team, would go into the Biceps and Banter business, I guess, pot. So yeah, me and Dan still do have our own separate clients. We could easily lump them into one. Or it would be as simple as changing the links to a payment system. But it would get a little bit messy because I've got more clients than Dan, and he doesn't want to, go up to the amount of clients I have, and rightly so, and stuff. So it would be a bit messy. But yeah, we've got like a separate entity, I guess, that's operating independent to our personal stuff, I think.
Just on the number of clients, this is something that obviously I told you off for plenty. You never listened at any point.
Don't ask.
It's something that one of the really common questions that I get is, how many clients could I work with? And it's a terrible question because in theory, fucking hundreds, but the payoff may not be worth it. How many clients do you have, Mike? And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I have, let me just get my thing up. 117.
So you have 117 one-to-one online clients, correct?
Yeah, and over half of them are now coaches, which takes more time than a fat loss client. And I've got about 9 calls booked in next week as well. So my opinion on that is it's way too much. Me knowing that, the logical brain, and Suck telling me that, and Dan telling me that, and near enough my missus telling me that, and everybody telling me that. I'm currently having therapy, right? For the way that I am with stuff, I have a real big fear of not being good enough, which is pretty much translated throughout the entirety of my life, be it business, be it relationships, confidence. I've got this real fear of it, and that's the thing that drives me. And I don't know why, but I can't seem to shake this thing of being in competition with just trying to be better and be better and be better. And the logical brain takes over and goes, well, better is better, more is not necessarily better. Because you could go, well, if I stripped all those clients back, I could probably give more time to each client, and then that would be in turn better. And I know that, but it feels like I'm wrestling a little bit with myself in terms of being able to do it. So I'm not going to say it's tough or it's worries me or anything like that, but it is a struggle that I have because I think it's deeper than me just taking on clients. It's from my own fear, I think, my own fear of losing everything, my fear of not being good enough, my fear of disappointing people. So it does run a little bit deeper than I'm just going to take on X amount of clients. So those are my own personal hang-ups, which I'm trying to work through. But for any coaches that are listening, I would definitely say if you're giving a good service, going up to this amount of clients is horrific, because in the last 6 months, I've struggled with anxiety, burnout, incredible amounts of stress. So the smallest things that will go wrong will have I'll have a disproportionate reaction to them, but it's because it's almost like my stress levels are here and my tipping point is there. And it feels like I'm just operating there all the time because I'm trying to look after X amount of people. And then when you start to coach coaches, you then have an additional pressure because their livelihood, their families, and this kind of weighs on you a little bit. So it feels like there's just an incredible amount of stress that's on me. So I would say that is probably too much in the capacity in which I coach. So the capacity which I coach is a video check-in from the client every week. So it's not a type form, it's a video check-in. So sometimes I might literally be sat there watching a video for 15 to 20 minutes and then a video check-in back from me, which again can be 15, 20 minutes. It's been known to be upwards to 40, 45 minutes when needed. The availability to book a call whenever they like. Basically, out of these things of wanting to give so much because I fear people thinking I'm not giving enough. So I feel like it's so strange. I feel like I've got to be operating. I feel like me working harder is the thing that's going to help this fear, but it's not. And again, it's something that I am definitely trying to work through. I think in a reduced capacity, I think if you did text check-ins, type form check-ins, voice note check-ins, I think that's probably quite manageable. I've actually got a client at the moment who's got similar amounts of clients. His coaching service is maybe not where ours is, I'd say, at the moment. I think he would probably agree with that. And I think he gets through his in about 5 hours for the lot. So for that, cool. But for the way that I do it, too much. But we have made some changes to the business next year in terms of not necessarily the amount, but the frequency of check-ins are going to be changing for us next year.
Yeah, I think from obviously your situation is very specific and the issues that you're facing with trying to reduce the number of clients, reduce the amount of work. I think a lot of coaches worry that more clients equals worse service. They just make that generalization. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is, as you said, it's just a miserable existence. Like that's the payoff. It's not a depleted quality of service. It's your life is going to be impacted if you go up to that amount of clients. Would you agree?
100%. And again, I don't want it to be a woe is me type thing because it's, I'm really, really, really grateful for every person that pays me their hard-earned money and that trusts me. I'm incredibly grateful for, but you don't have much time for life, and you find yourself not being present in the times that you do set aside because you're always switched on. You're always thinking about something else. You're thinking about this person you've got to set up, or this person you've got to get back to, or this, or that, or the other. So actually, you don't enjoy the small amounts of time that you do get to yourself because you're currently, elsewhere, I guess. And again, there's a reason why I'm fucking the palest man in Dubai, right? I don't fucking leave this office. I might as well be anywhere. I could literally be anywhere. So again, these are things that are playing on my mind because there's the whole. Why do you grow a business? To earn more money, but you don't necessarily want more money. It's like when someone goes, I want to lose 2 stone. You don't want to lose 2 stone. You want the things that come from losing 2 stone, the confidence, being able to be seen without your clothes on, fitting in clothes better, not worrying about having your photo taken. It's those things that you want. You don't actually want the number. So you kind of go, well, money is not really a thing. You want the things that money can get you. And for me, it was this perceived safety, security, which it is, don't get me wrong, and to give myself a better life. But then you kind of look at it and go, well, I've probably actually got a worse life the bigger that the business has got. And my therapist asked me this when I was happiest. I was like probably earning about $8,000 a month, doing 2 days a week, filming videos with Dan. Balance. I could do other stuff outside of it. I wanted to fucking play golf with you, but I don't have any time. So I'm fucking dreadful, and it's demoralising.
I mean, you can't blame the lack of time on being dreadful. Just going back to that, the story about being good at everything in school. Not a single part of me believes that. I've seen you swing a golf club.
Do you know what? I was good at stuff, but the stuff that I'm not good at, this thing about not being good enough, I don't do. So like, I wasn't very good at swimming, so I just didn't do it.
Golf
I
was
have this
proper
like, I have this like, if I can't do it or see myself being, and by no means do I think I'm the best at anything, because I don't think that at all. But if I know that I'm not going to be even considered good at something, I just stop it. I just stop doing it. And that's kind of happened with golf, because I was like, I genuinely didn't have the time to devote. I see how much time that you and Dan spend playing golf. Dan's down a fucking driving range every fucking night. I don't have that amount of time, because I'm working, and then I want to spend the time with obviously my partner. So I'm never going to be good. And that feeling of not being anywhere near where I would need to be is just, it takes any fun out of doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
So I just don't do it. But you wait until next year when I've got more time. So
when you've reduced those client numbers to 112.
That's it. No, we're doing every other week
next
year, so I'm going to have a full week.
Yeah. Okay. So where's the business today then? Just give me a very quick overview. Obviously, we've covered it a little bit, but where is the business today? What does it do?
Yeah, so me and Dan still working with our clients, I guess, which is probably, like I say, maybe a 50% split of like coaches, helping them with their coaching delivery, coaching service, and I guess social media and business and things. And then we still have obviously some fat loss, nutrition, training type clients as well. We then got 4 coaches who run our group coaching program, Blitz, and then have their own clients as well. So I think, they're kind of roughly around the between 30 and I want to say 45, 50 client mark. Each of those guys, we have a copywriter. We have a guy who runs our social media for our group coaching page. We're about, that's where we're at, I think. That's about it.
So a long way from where things have started. So lots of progress, lots of success, lots of changes, but lots of challenges still as well, obviously, as we've just covered. What advice would you give to someone who is listening to this podcast and thinks, I want to emulate your success or the success of Biceps and Banter? Just a high level bit of advice.
I would say strap in, because it's going to be harder than you think.
You can't tell people that, mate. You're not allowed to tell people they have to work hard. You have to work smart, he means.
Yeah. What work smart and hard. Honest to God, this work smart, this leverage coach shit. I actually got posted, because I was like, you know what leverage coach is, don't you?
No.
So
I purposely avoid everything.
So there's this coaching AI kind of like software where people fill out a type form and the AI will tell them whether they need a check-in or not off their coaches.
It's not AI, is it? It's just logic-based type form.
Oh yeah,
whatever. Call it AI.
Whatever, yeah. And there's like a certain mentorship that pushes it. And I slagged it off, obviously, because I don't think that it's proper coaching, because it's not, in my opinion anyway. And my post got shared inside the mentorship, and you ought to have seen the amount of coaches who have been in the industry 3 minutes going, his business won't last if he doesn't use leverage coach, not knowing anything about what's happened, But yeah, like it's sexy to say you can earn more money and do less. That's the thing. It's like when the whole eat more, lose more fat came out. Of course, that's sexier, but in reality, we all know you've got to eat less. That's what's going to help you lose more fat. And it's the same thing with business. And one thing I will say is that I watched an Elon Musk documentary about 3 weeks ago, right? You go into an Elon Musk documentary fully expecting to see the guy doing sleepless nights, working his fucking nuts off. Do you know, if you'd have turned up to the documentary and it would have been like, yeah, he only works like 4 hours a week, there'd be something, it wouldn't quite marry up. So, like, even common sense would suggest that there's got to be an element of working hard before even working smart. Even, you know, this work-life balance even needs to come to fruition. So, like, one thing for coaches that want to, I guess, emulate what we've done is, and by the way, it's entirely possible. Like, it's entirely possible. Be prepared to work harder than you were expecting to work. Be prepared to make some sacrifices. And then, as a cheeky little second, I would say, be yourself. Stop thinking that you need to be in an online coach mold. Be yourself. Be authentic with that, and don't deviate from it. Work hard. Be yourself, and that's it. I would say, and obviously be a great coach. But I guess that comes under the umbrella of working hard. I would say those two things.
Okay. And obviously that moves on nicely into kind of a lot of what you're doing at the minute, which is education, support, mentoring for other coaches. So why did you guys move into that? What triggered that?
It was kind of like a natural progression. So, like, we'd been doing fat loss and nutrition for quite a while. We were kind of starting to, I guess, get known for like photo shoot style transformations. We were putting a good number of clients through photo shoots each year, which attracted more and more coaches. So I think I might have been coaching 20, 25, maybe 30 coaches in terms of fat loss and nutrition. And then with the way that we do our check-ins, we give them free reign to talk about stuff. And they would start to ask us about, if you don't mind, I've got a client that's a little bit like this. Have you ever seen him? You know, what would you do in this situation? Or they might ask us about social media and things like that. And we found ourselves answering those questions anyway with our current clients. And then the fact that we obviously were bringing on coaches under our brand, and we learned a lot from doing that. We fucked up quite a lot. We didn't listen to success advice periods of times with SOPs and stuff, which we should have listened to. We fucked up and we learned some things. And again, we were starting to see trends with what things were being successful and what people needed help with. We were just like, right, there is nothing out there that teaches how to be a good online coach and how to promote yourself as an online coach. Really, what we saw is there's people getting qualified as a PT, teaching people how to be a PT, but there's nothing really teaching people to be an online coach. Our view of mentorships were not particularly good ones because we felt that they were just groups with generic information in there, like that you could implement at your own will, with no real accountability. And we were like, there's something in this. Like, there's something in teaching people how to get results, how to have a proper onboarding system, how to market their services. I think the differentiating factor of, I think, what you did for us, I wouldn't class you as mentoring us. I would say that we worked with you on almost like a consultation basis, which is something, again, that I think is needed when you're at a certain point where you don't necessarily need to be tracking stuff, and you don't need a weekly check-in. That a chat each month with how me and you work. So I don't necessarily know how you do things now, but I think we used to chat once a month, I think, for like an hour, and that's all me and Dan needed because we had enough knowledge to go and implement the things that you're asking us to do. But we kind of saw that little middle ground between that of like, there's nothing that we could see that was doing what we were doing. So we were like, let's coach coaches. We didn't want to be mentors or, put people into a mentorship. We literally transposed what we were doing with fat loss clients into coaching coaches. So we set up weekly check-ins, video check-ins. We tracked data just the same as we would do with fat loss clients, except it wasn't protein, carbs, fats, fucking steps, calories anymore. It was other elements. We felt in a good position to be able to critique content. We felt in a good position to be able to just teach people the things that we had done, really, and not really deviate much from that. And it was more so about, in the beginning, getting people results with their clients. But then more people come in and you realise that not everybody's got the amount of clients that they need to be able to get results. So it just kind of it kind of grew from there. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, 100%. It's the path most people should go on when they try and become an educator or a business mentor. Like over the past 6 years, I get a lot of people coming to me like, I want to be a business mentor. How do I start? How do I get clients? I'm like, you don't. People will start coming to you once they see your success or they see what you're doing, and you'll just naturally get people coming to you. It's how I started. Like I started posting content of probably the reality of being an online coach. Obviously, this was years probably before. I don't even know if you would have been online coaching then, like 2016. Yeah, you were, weren't you, by then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was started in 2013 or 2014, one of the two.
Yeah. So in 2016, I'd started posting content about the reality of online coaching, because back then it was all do nothing, make money. Like you don't have to do any work, just add clients to this plan, charge them $3,000. Right, that was it. So people started coming to me because I was like, no, this is what my online coaching has looked like for the past few years. Here's the reality of it. Here's how to coach clients. Here's how to get clients. And then people start coming to me. And that's how most people start, as you have as well. So our journey's been pretty similar. I was probably triggered into doing it through people seeing my success and me hating what else was out there and speaking out about it, which I know obviously you and Dan do as much, probably, if not more, than I ever did. I've definitely mellowed. You guys are still at it. So what's the worst thing that you've seen or heard about, the way things are done by other trainers, mentors, programs, or just...
There's a lot of bad things, if I'm being completely honest. I don't necessarily like the model. The same people that used to slag off people giving out meal plans to 300 people and getting inevitably 40 or 50 results out of the people that took the meal plans. And there was this big argument of everything needs to be bespoke and so on, which it does, because you're going to get a higher percentage success rate. The same people are now literally just doing that, but in a business format. They're putting out generic framework templated stuff and basically selling it for a excruciating amount of money. And it's not bespoke. It's not guaranteed success like they tell you it is. That's the thing, is that they there's lies. I think that the deceit, I think, is probably the thing that really riles me up. The false promises, the high pressure sales tactics. I've heard of stuff like one guy reached out to me about a mentor that was like that pounced on the fact that he got some inheritance money because his mum had died, and they said your mum would be proud of you making a business, so it's probably wise to spend it on something that's going to better yourself, which I think is horrendous. One guy said that when he tried to leave a mentorship, they basically wouldn't let him leave. He was racking up debt. He ended up about £21,000 in debt, racking up debt, trying to leave. Ended up having to block them on social media, to which people working for the brand set up numerous fake accounts, hounded him, basically said that they were going to make sure that he didn't get anywhere in fitness. They were going to ruin his credit rating and make sure he wouldn't ever get a mortgage, and basically just went after him. And it's stuff like that where you're just like, it has really become a pack of wolves. Where has it gone from wanting to help people? It's not about wanting to help people anymore. It's about how much money can somebody make. And that's horrific. Like, it's horrific because these are like real people. And just as we would be upset before about people being put on a meal plan and starved into a fucking disordered relationship with food, it's now like you're talking. I've honestly spoke to probably over 10 people that have got at least £10,000 worth of debt and more. Like, and those are just the people that have felt the need to come up and talk to me about it and their financial situation. There's going to be loads more. And you think, these people are supposedly going to be helping people and doing ridiculous things to their business, and they're just false. Like, it's false promises and lies, and that's the dirty side of things that really does wind me up a bit. And that's where, like you say, our content comes from, because that's where our content used to come from with fitness. It was about the hero villain marketing. It was calling out the stuff where we had fucked up, where I had fucked up, where I'd taken wrong advice and things like that. That's where it came from with nutrition and training, was like how, be the person that I wish I'd have found in my early 20s when I was fucking doing 4-hour workouts, thinking I was sensitive to carbs, and feeling like a bag of soup still. That's how I wanted to coach. I wanted to be the person I would have found. And it's the same thing now. I would want to be, that I'm moulding it off that, basically. I'm not thinking, well, what would I have wanted at certain stages of my career? And I've been lucky that I've had Dan, because it's almost similar in a way. But I'd say that side of things is the most disturbing to me.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of it, like if you remove the marketing and terrible sales tactics, and obviously those retention tactics you just mentioned, if it was just it's videos and like if people marketed it for what it was, then fine, right? And priced it for what it was, fine. But there's such a gap between how it's marketed, sold, and what it actually is. I think that's the issue.
Like you said, I would have no problem if it was like, we've got this video library, we have calls 3-4 times a week, you can ask questions in the group. If that's how it's marketed, cool, because that's what it is. But it's this is one-to-one coaching. Incorrect, it's not. If you don't get a return on your money or double return on your investment, we will give you your money back. You don't. You don't. That's a lie as well. And then the whole falsifying of their own figures. There's one mentorship that was telling their clients to falsify their social proof. So say that they were saying basically it was written into a stock document that they give out as part of like the library. If a result has taken you X amount, shorten that amount of time, because people want results quicker. So if you think you're telling the coaches to do that, so what are they doing with their own social proof? And it would be easy to falsify it. I could literally text myself now and say, I've made X amount of money and I've had this amount of signups. I could literally do it now. And I'm convinced that there's people doing that. And I'm also convinced, and I know for a fact, that people are making up their own revenue figures. And they're using lies and deception to sell people into very expensive things that they can't get out of. Very expensive contracts, $5,000, $10,000. And it's appalling. It's appalling, is what it is.
So is the plan for Biceps and Banter to kind of grow your business? I don't want to put it in a bucket, but business education, mentoring, coaching, is the plan for that to scale and kind of try and combat that as best as you can and get people away from that and towards your own?
We're basically going to get 500 people in a group so I can charge them $10,000 to be in there. That's what we're going to do. Now, so the plan is to reduce the amount of hours is one, which we've done. So next year we're implementing like an every other week basis. We sat down and kind of looked at the limitations, and the bottleneck is time, and it's our time. And this is only with coaches. We were like, actually, do coaches need an every week check-in? And we were like, no, we do think that they need check-ins because they want to be held accountable. Certainly the ones that we work with, and we want to be hands-on. But from trialing it out, we trialed 2 systems where we had X amount of clients on every week and X amount on every other week. And we didn't really find any difference. And in fact, the every other week was less overwhelming for the coach, because as you know, something doesn't need to change in your business every week. So we've changed it down to every other week, and the weeks in between we'll be giving more in terms of group calls and providing more things. So we were getting questions like, how do I set up a landing page, and how do I do this, and how do I do that? And us being us, if we knew we needed to set up a landing page, we'd figure out how to do it. But we want to be able to provide that kind of stuff as well, which we just don't have time for. doing so many check-ins. So we've kind of gone like, right, okay, how can we change the service that we provide to not really take away from the service, but give additional things that are going to help with the implementation of the things that we're asking them to do at check-ins. So the first step is that. It's also going to allow us to create more content because we're going to have more time to be able to devote to it. So we're going to increase the amount of content that we put out on YouTube and Instagram because neither of us have particularly big followings. And it's not necessarily about the following, but the more coaches and more eyes that we can get on our page, mine and Dan's pages, then obviously the better. We're not necessarily going to scale in terms of numbers. We're probably going to scale in terms of price, I would say. It's never going to be anything, I don't believe, where it's going to be astronomical figures. We already earn good amounts of money as it is, and we've already kind of established that more money doesn't necessarily mean more happiness. So that's kind of something that we need to think about when planning for the future. We have made a few changes to the way that we're running Blitz. We've shortened the space of time down so that we can actually run more, and we've started with some influencer marketing. So we've got our coaches, so we basically want to grow that side. That's, again, probably, I would say, the more scalable side to the business because it's requiring less hours from me and Dan. So that side of things is probably the most scalable, so still the fat loss, the nutrition side of things. Whereas mine and Dan's coaching is probably going to be like, I guess what you do or have done is probably more, it's just an add-on, an extra, isn't it? Like to the main gig, I think. That's the way that I see it. And at some stage, probably maybe not be in fitness at all. At some stage, I can't see it being in the next. How old am I? I'm 34. I can't see it being. I'd like to think by early 40s, I might not be in fitness. I'd say.
Yeah, which is something a lot of people don't admit, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with looking elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Okay, mate. Are you ready for some finishing questions?
Yeah, always.
Right. Why did you move to Dubai?
Because you'd moved there.
I was going to make a joke about what else are you going to copy from me, but you did it for me.
There you go. Get it first. It was lockdown in the UK. It was miserable. We came on holiday because it was the only place that weren't on lockdown. Came on holiday. I think I must have heard about you moving. I'm pretty sure we might have had a conversation about it. And I think it just sparked a discussion between me and Amna. So Amna's my missus, and she's actually from an Arabic family as well, which I don't want to say is a deciding factor, but I think it added to things as well. Like being around the culture, she can read, write Arabic, speak it. Not that you necessarily need it here, but I guess it was something that was a consideration. The weather, and then the big thing, tax. Like, I'm not going to skirt around the fact that the way that I think the UK is maybe set up is it's incredibly difficult, as obviously you know, to grow as what is essentially a small business. It's really, really tough to grow. And in a binary format of asking the question, can the business grow better if you're not being bound by the tax laws of the UK? The answer is yes. And the answer will be yes to every business. So I'd be lying if I said that weren't a contributing factor, because it is the good benefit. So yeah, I would say that those things, and then since being here, the tax is great, but the weather's great. The exposure to almost like, how can I put this? Almost like the atmosphere of like success. Do you know, like it's almost like, because it's such a forward moving place, there's a different feel to it than Britain. And I absolutely love Britain, and I will end up in Britain, by the way. But there's like a different feel, and it's almost like inspiring to be around this environment, as daft as it sounds. So I like that about it. There's obviously lots of nice things to do as well. There's lots to see, and obviously I'm really grateful that I've been able to see a lot of these things. But yeah, those are the reasons why. It's a really nice place to come if you've not been. It is more than just the influencer stuff as well. That's like a picture that's painted. I think if you're in certain areas, it is correct. But when you live here, you kind of realise that you can just live kind of like a normal life as well, and not taught about. But yeah, so that's the reasons why we moved to Dubai, and basically to set ourselves up for the future, like to get us heads down, to work for X amount of years, and to save, to reinvest, to to basically help out the rest of our life, and to help those around us as well.
Amazing. What what name something that you hate about the industry?
Fucking hell. Besides the mentoring a lot that I've just spoke about, um, I say bad coaching. I'm going to stick to my roots and just say really poor, bad coaching, disregard to your client being an actual human, sticking them on anything, being okay with giving them something that's generic, taking their money off them, not being punctual with your response times, like just bad coaching. People getting into it for a quick buck, thinking that it's easy, thinking because they like the gym that they're going to be a successful online coach, but not actually having their client at the forefront of their mind when they're growing a business or wanting to run a business. Because that's like everything that we wanted to do. Like I said, the reason why I wanted to get into this was A, I really enjoyed sport growing up, but B, I wanted to be the person. So like in my early 20s, used to hate how I looked, hated it, and I was always on a diet. I was always watching how I looked. Didn't like how I looked at all, and just following poor advice. I wasn't joking when I said 4 hour training sessions. I used to train for like 4 hours. Um, I would only eat brown rice, brown pasta. I would have a cheat day. I would be spending money I didn't have on supplements. Like I'm talking like glutamine, CLA, all of the classics. I was
Yeah.
skipping. I ended up in fucking debt, not because of supplements, but I ended up in debt at that time because I had no money. But I'm sure that spending money on things that weren't necessary were a contributing factor. Um, and I was just looking for poor advice. I had some bad coaching once. Um, Ended up not having an erection for 6 months after it because I was basically ran into the ground. Testosterone just bottomed out. I was basically being coached like I was assisted when I wasn't assisted. Um, and yeah, I want to. I got into it to be able to help people, like to be able to change people's lives, to give them the confidence that I wish that I'd had. Um, and just the amount of coaches that don't have that, and I don't expect everybody to have that, but I almost feel like that should be. You should be like empathetic as a coach. You should have a certain set of traits that have led you into this job. But it seems like people coming in are in it because they're like, fucking hell. There's one person in a mentorship that I heard of, and it's a girl. She's not even a qualified coach. She's not qualified as a PT, not qualified as a nutritionist, nothing. And the mentorship is telling her to charge £1,000 for 3 months up front, and she's got clients, and she's having to ask how to set people's macros in the group. She's had to outsource her training, and you just think that's horrendous. But think of the people that are paying her £1,000, and you think
Yeah.
these are people that have some issues, that have some confidence issues, that have trusted in somebody and paid their money, and they're just being. And now it's okay to just give people shit. Like it's not okay to. It's not okay. So that honestly, I have such like a strong like emotional thing about stuff like that. I think that's one of the things that does drive me, I guess, with definitely the content and the way that we do our stuff as well. But yeah, bad coaching and bad mentoring, basically.
What's the biggest mistake you see other coaches making?
Not being themselves, thinking that they've got to fit into a mold of I need to post how to make a chicken burrito in under 4 ingredients using food from Aldi. Like, get a grip. You don't need to do that. So thinking that there's a set way, a set mold, and looking over the garden fence at what the next online coach is doing and copying them. The easiest way to blend in is by copying everyone around you. Marketing, you need to stand out. The way to stand out is by being yourself, because there's only one of you. So do that part, and you'll be okay. Even if you're a twat, like me probably, because the internet's so big, you'll attract 30 other twats.
Yeah.
You know, like, even if you're boring, play on it. The no ego, no fluff, no fucking dancing on TikTok coach who just is here to simply get you results. Play on it. You'll get 30 other people that want that. But the problem is that everybody helps busy professionals who want to get in the shape of their life without giving up the foods that they love. Pizza emoji. And then they've just got these they've just got recipes on their page. Be a fucking cook then. Like, recipes and just shit fucking content where they're quite clearly looking at what other people are doing going, this is how I'll be successful. No, it ain't. So, in a nutshell, be yourself.
And then to finish on a positive note, what's one thing that you love about the industry?
The change and impact that you can make to somebody's life. Hands down, trumps everything. Probably a cliche answer. Probably everybody's going to answer that one the same. But what a feeling it is. Like, I've helped people get pregnant. Not firsthand, not directly.
How many people, mate?
Yeah, loads. I've helped people get pregnant. I've got one girl who's lost, I think, something like 60 kilos with me. Some of the things that she says about how her life has changed is incredible, to the point where I've actually cried on check-ins, like, because of the things that she said about how that she never felt as though anybody really took her seriously because she was just a fat one. She never owned a full-length mirror. Like, she didn't want to go out of the house and stuff. And just to see how she's changed her life around. And there's been definitely other cases like that across the years. Like, those feelings of being able to know that there's been a lasting impression on someone for good. Brilliant. Like, brilliant.
Yeah, I love that. That's a nice high note to finish on, mate. So if people want to find you, where should they go?
Mike Biceps Banter on Instagram, and we've got a YouTube channel as well, called Biceps and Banter. There you go.
Funnily enough. Amazing. Mike, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on, mate.